and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone, and we will need a motion to approve the agenda this evening, and we do have an amendment to our agenda. So under action item number 15, the Van Gogh extenuating circumstances policy, since this does affect us fiscally, we'll need to have a resolution for that. So the resolution is new to the agenda. So if I could have someone to make a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment, that would be great.
So, okay, second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, that motion passes. We'll move to public comment, and is there anyone here for public comment? Is there anyone online for public comment? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment. We'll move on to council member announcements. Does anyone have any announcements or anything exciting to share? Want to introduce anyone or? Guess not. Okay. Well, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda, well, it does have the MMOF funding. So we had added the first version did not have the MMOF funding reconciliation, but the new consent agenda has that included since we had everyone was agreeing on the plan we wanted to do going forward. And so I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on these items? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. And we will move on to the air quality agenda. First item is the Air Pollution Control Division, which is a written report in your handout. And next we have the air quality program updates from Dina Wojcik from Two Roads Environmental. So Dina is online, I believe, and we'll let you go, Dina.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
You can. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Okay, good. All right. So September was yet another busy month in terms of air quality here in Colorado. So I'm not going to go through all of the items in here. I'm just going to highlight a number of, well, is what I think are the more important ones. Just as a reminder, I'm here with Two Roads Environmental, and I am your consultant. Although I'm a RAC board member, I'm not acting in that capacity in this meeting. All right, so we're going to hit the Air Quality Control Commission. So in September, they adopted health-based benchmarks for 5 priority air toxic contaminants, also called PTACs. They're going to use those for screening purposes in terms of whether or not they need to look more closely at, better controlling those pollutants that are coming from a specific source or not. So their benchmark values, they're used for screening purposes. They are not triggering any specific requirements at this time. We're going to see some additional rulemakings from the commission that really starts looking at control requirements and additional monitoring requirements, perhaps permitting for those types or for facilities that have higher emissions regarding those priority air toxic contaminants. All right, moving on to the Air Quality Control Commission's ozone SIP and that rulemaking that's going to happen here in November. There was just a big deadline that occurred on the 30th. where the parties to that rulemaking had to file any intents to file alternative proposals. And so we were looking at that closely in terms of, transportation related items that may come up that may be different than what the division has proposed. There are no alternatives that have come out of that process. And so what that means is those motor vehicle emission budgets that were in the division's proposal are probably going to move forward. And so that's something that was very, very important to be tracked on behalf of the North Range NPO. We also saw a number, I'm still screening some of the pre-hearing statements that were filed, but most of them were generally supportive of the division's proposal. Several were, wanting to better understand the pursuit of the voluntary reclassification in advance of getting any kind of, modeling or other data that comes out of that process to inform, why or what was contributing to ozone at each of the monitors and how each monitor might respond to whether it's VOC controls or NOx controls. So there are questions about that, but generally we're not intending to see many changes related to that rulemaking. We'll keep. I'll dig a little deeper into the pre-hearing statements that were just filed on the 30th and come back with any additional thoughts or concerns that you may want to consider. And as a reminder, written comments are due on that proposal for that rulemaking on November 4th. And so that might be something we'll be looking at a little bit more closely. All right, moving forward. The REC related to the requested data in support of the ozone SIP and what folks were questioning, wanting more data out of the modeling forums, that kind of thing. The REC, if you recall, had a summer 2025 ozone forum scheduled for July that has since been rescheduled for October 30th. And I just want to highlight that because that's where we're going to see information come out of that process that is sharing or is identifying what is contributing to ozone at each of the monitors in the non-attainment area. And there should also be what they call sensitivity runs, again, telling us which monitors are more sensitive to VOC reductions versus NOx reduction. So I should have stepped back. VOC emissions come from the use of things that that volatilize, so like fuels that evaporate, paints, coatings, that kind of thing. NOx is a byproduct of fuel combustion. So those are two different types of activities that may impact how ozone is forming and being observed at each monitor. So that's what we're looking for out of that forum. We will keep track of what's happening there and report back to you in terms of the information that they intend to share at that time. All right, moving on to ozone season data. And so while we had a cooler, wetter summer, we saw fewer ozone exceedances in the non-attainment area along the Front Range. We still had fourth max values that exceeded the 70 parts per billion standard. So that's the bottom line, what you need to take in. There will be a more detailed briefing on this, both at this Air Quality Control Commission Board of Health joint meeting that's coming up here in October. And then, of course, there will be more in-depth information provided both at the ozone forum that the RAC's holding, and then obviously at the the rulemaking that's happening in November before the Air Quality Control Commission. So there's a number of opportunities for you to get more updated information, but bottom line, there still were fourth max exceedances of the 70 parts per billion standard. Okay. So I've been asked to give you some highlights about a bill that was introduced in to the House in Congress. This was introduced, I think, back in earlier this summer, and it's not seen any progress. It's been assigned a couple of committees, and there's just really been nothing happening with it since June. But I wanted to highlight it because it had some interesting revisions to the Clean Air Act. And so it's called HR 4218. It's called the Clean Air and Economic Advancement Reform Act, CLEAR Act. And it touches on things related to the timing and the setting of national ambient air quality standards like the ozone standard. So it touches on that and a concept called exceptional events that we've talked about before. So in terms of the NACs, the timing and consideration, it sets up or it proposes to change the review of each NACs from a 5-year rotation to a 10-year rotation. And that would be a change to the Clean Air Act. And I just want to note, EPA has historically been slow to meet the 5-year rotations. They've not had a great track record, and part of it is really complicated. It's a really complicated process. So the other thing I want to highlight is even if they did make that change, we are still, we're currently working with a 2015 ozone NACs, and so that's 10 years ago, and so they would still be obligated to review that ozone standard that we have been talking about pretty much every month for several years. All right. It also asks that, or not asks, it mandates the consideration of attainability when the actual standard is set. So if the next review, whatever recommendation comes out of that, whether keep the standard the way it is or lower it, there's also got to be a consideration of whether or not areas can actually attain the NACs. There is a proposed revision to the makeup of the Clean Air Act Science Advisory Committee, also known as CASAC, to be more representative of regions throughout the U.S. It also establishes time to resolve incompleteness and deficiencies before the feds step in and implement what's called a federal implementation plan. And that, again, that's if the state cannot resolve issues in a timely manner, such that they can just move forward with their state plan rather than the federal plan being imposed on them. It also includes some, I guess, relief, if you will, for the requirements to establish and implement contingency measures for extreme areas. It also gives some relief in terms of sanctions and how they apply when emissions are beyond control of a specific area. In terms of exceptional events, exceptional events is a term that's used, and basically when there are wildfire events or stratospheric intrusions, basically events that are outside of control, our ability to control. There's a very specific definition of what those exceptional events are, and there's some very specific exclusions of what exceptional events can consider. This proposal would change the definition to include not only wildfire emissions from wildfire events, but also wildfire mitigation activities. And I think that's an important revision. There's also the proposed removal of the exclusion that does not allow for meteorologic events associated with higher temperatures and lower precipitation years to be considered as an exceptional event. So that by removing that exclusion, that means those kinds of events could be considered as an exceptional event. EPA is also proposed to be directed to develop guidance to implement this new definition of exceptional events within 18 months of the final act. And then EPA is also directed to request to assist in the development of related exceptional events when two or more states come together and say, hey, this event affected us. So if certain several areas are being impacted by a wildfire, for example, EPA can be requested to step in and assist with the development of that exceptional event demonstration. And that's very resource intensive for states. So that may be helpful. And then lastly, there's a revision in terms of requiring public-facing accountability and acting on submitted exceptional event demonstrations. And so in the past, there's been a lot of, natural events, whether they're stratospheric intrusions or wildfires or other kinds of events. And EPA doesn't act on those. It doesn't act on all of them. They specifically try to act only on the ones that are going to make a difference in terms of identifying whether or not an area is going to be identified as a non-attainment area, or if they're going to be, downgraded and reclassified to a next worst classification. So in those kinds of incidents, but EPA has not acted on those very quickly, and they're pretty intense demonstrations. So anyway, those are the revisions that are found in this this bill. Again, it's not getting a lot of traction from my point of view, but we'll continue to track it, and then I will stop there and see if there are any questions.
Any questions for Gina? I had a question. Thanks for letting us know about that bill. It's interesting that it's not going anywhere, because I think that bill could be potentially good for us to, add some events that are maybe unique to the Rocky Mountain area for sure. One of the things that I had a question about with the SIP that's being considered, do we know how much vehicle inspection fees are being increased? If they talked about increasing those, but do we know what the amount is on that?
So I will go back and look at the specific proposal. I do know that the bill that this is following, that was passed earlier this year, put a maximum cap on it. And
Okay.
that this proposal didn't go to the full max. It's allowing it to increase over time. But I will look into that, and I will put it in the chat as soon as I find it.
And then with regard to the motor vehicle emissions budgets that they're considering at the AQCC, is that how do those will we have how does that piece work?
So my understanding is that the division looked to the different MPOs, so DRCOG and Northern Range MPO, to understand what they were projecting in terms of budgets. And they used the information from your agency as well as DRCOG to identify what those motor vehicle emission budgets would be. And so they, what's in the proposal is consistent with those numbers. Becky Carrasco has verified that, and we're not seeing any alternatives to adjust or change that in any way. So I think they're going to stay where staff has recommended them to be.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Any other questions for Dina? All right, well, thanks, Dina. Thanks for the very thorough report. It was, very good. And thanks for keeping up with all these different spaces. We're having a federal level, state level, and agencies. Appreciate your work.
You're welcome,
All right,
and I will put the information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, just to remind folks, if you are interested in making comments, it looks like the deadline is, or those need to be made by November 4th. And so if you have a problem with, what's included with the SIP, I would encourage people to do so. I don't know, Elizabeth, were we intending to do that as an organization or?
Okay, so we did make comments on the blueprint. I think after we see what some of the comments for the party status are coming out, I do think my hope would be that we put together some comments to submit that I can bring to you guys at the next executive committee meeting at least, because I know our next council meeting is after the deadline for when the comments are due. They're due on the 4th and you guys don't meet until the 6th. So if the executive committee is good with maybe what we would recommend submitting is comments, then we can email that out to the council.
And that's for comments for the RAC. Okay,
The
Or for
November 4th is for the SIP.
that's for the SIP.
That's for the SIP. So what we want to do is we want to see, really, we need to have that ozone forum with the source apportionment
Yeah.
to understand what the data is going to look like, because I believe they're going to use that information as part of their recommendation that they would want to bring forth for that. So the timing is really tight. It's a tight turnaround, but you guys, you'd already put together comments that we did for the blueprint. I feel like as long as the SIP hearing is keeping in line with the bill, it's going to be in alignment with what your comments were. So it would be more of a support. We want to continue to support those, the way the bill is being presented. Because the council may recall that the RAC and the APCD may have different recommendations for the rulemaking that might not align, and we just don't know that yet. We don't know exactly if the RAC is going to propose something different than what APCD is. So once we know, then we can.
Right, okay.
But I would say you guys in your comments previously been in alignment with APCD.
So any questions about that? Obviously jurisdictions are also welcome to, give comments on either the SIP or the blueprint. So keep that in mind if you have any comments that you want to make. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the RAC. I think Dina really covered, we've been really going over the blueprint, and just so folks know, there is an updated blueprint. Although, and Dina could maybe speak to this, it's because they don't have it redlined, it's hard to say where the, what changes have been made from the September version to the October version. So, anyway, I don't think it's changed all that much, honestly. And that's kind of what we're concentrating on. That's what we'll be looking at this upcoming October meeting, which is tomorrow. I don't have anything else to add on that. And then with regard to item number 9, the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise, we did not meet in September, and our next meeting, so we haven't met for several months. Our next meeting will be October 23rd. So that is it for that.
Dina's got her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dina, go ahead.
No problem. So I just want to highlight on the blueprint that the board did adopt a process for, I guess, approving, endorsing the blueprint. And what's really important to highlight is this is going to continue to evolve over time. and beyond this November ozone SIP rulemaking, and likely won't be finalized until 2026, or the board won't be, formally endorsing it until then. So there's time. So I would expect that it's going to continue to evolve. We'll keep track of those revisions. We'll come back to you with a better understanding of what those are, maybe at the next meeting then. But there's time to provide comments. Obviously, sooner is better than later, but it's not going to be, endorsed or finalized until 2026.
Right, and it is an evolving document, and it seems like they want to add more to some of those control strategies around what kind of, what of the outcomes of each strategy and the costs, and there were other things that they wanted to add to each of the control strategies that are in three different buckets, bucket 1, 2, and 3. And the first bucket is the things that will be implemented the earliest, and then bucket 3, I think, is not maybe due to be implemented till 2028 or 2029. So there is time. It is very much a living document because they will be adding more data to those control strategies. That was requested from all the outreach that they did in the different communities, and the outreach they did with industry. And so it seems like we're going to be maybe adopting or approving it in pieces as we see more information on it. So we can send out a link, I guess, to what the current version of that document is. But I would just say that it will keep changing, so nothing's set quite yet. Thank you, Dina, for the next item, number 10, is a report of the chair. I am the vice chair, so I don't have a report. And also, my only report would be the Cubs did win. So, but I don't have any news beyond that. So we'll move to item number 11, which is the executive director report.
All right. Thank you. Just some quick updates on some of the things that we've just been working on organizationally. Tomorrow I'm going to be finalizing the scope of work for our new ERP financial software called Acumatica. We haven't had the kickoff, but that will be following up from when we get that statement of work finalized. We did have a kickoff meeting today for our Van Gogh Trip Spark contract, which is going to generate a new Van Gogh app for our Van Gogh pool. And once we get that, it's going to take about 6 months to create an app and get it into the App Store. But we are also updating our website and our portal so you can do payments. So they'll have access to track all of their information through the app or through the website. So we're excited about seeing what that would look like, but that's probably a 9-month process to get that going. So once we have that, we'll keep you updated on it. We had a kickoff meeting today with our IT consultant, Greystone, and we are going to, as an organization, be transitioning our data, our servers to the cloud. So we are getting a backup storage piece of equipment, which it sounds like with some guidance that the council helped us with before I got here. So I appreciate that. We have to have this migration occur before October 26th. So that's our deadline, which is why we had our kickoff meeting today. So we will be setting up weekly meetings, ideally having our domains and everything transferred by October 23rd. And so fingers crossed that everything's going to go smoothly and everything's going to work the way it's supposed to. Because when technology's it's great, working, it's awesome. So we want to keep those good vibes out there. Becky successfully uploaded our 2024 audit into the clearinghouse last week. So we've officially got that audit submitted. So I wanted to thank Becky for her help on getting that down through the final stages. We're also now updating our 26 budget information, and then we're already going to need to start our 27 budget. So we're going to start reaching out, talking about that as well. And lastly, the Department of Local Affairs Executive Director Marie DeCambra, she did appoint me to the Regional Planning Roundtable Commission as a regional representative on behalf of the North Front Range MPO. So that was a commission that was created through House Bill 25-1198. It's a 21-member commission that is essentially created to assist local governments in addressing regional opportunities and challenges that are related to all sorts of things: housing, land use, transportation, environmental planning. So I will be participating on that. It doesn't sound like it'll really get started until Q1 or Q2 of 2026, but that's something I just wanted to bring to your attention. And Dina mentioned the comment deadline. The last thing is that we're adding in, see, this is why I wrote it on my hand, Jonathan. Comments for freight. So we have our freight survey out, and what we could, we're asking our communities if you could help us share emails, contacts with companies who are heavy freight users, that we could share our link to our survey to try and get the companies in your communities who have a heavy freight industry, you know, like the JBS's, the Woodwards, the Best. If you have an email or a contact person that you could email Jonathan, we would love to be able to send those companies a link to our surveys to see if we could get some feedback on our freight plan.
Sure.
So that's all I have. Vice
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Elizabeth? All right. Moving right along. Finance Committee is number 12. That's a written, Elizabeth did go over a lot of what actually happened in Finance Committee already. TAC is written. So we are on to agenda number 14, and Jonathan's already queued up for this. So this is the fiscal year 2025 tip delay review. And Jonathan, with a presentation.
We have like 7 different handouts on there.
We had to do a lot of updates this month, so we've got a lot of different PDFs. I appreciate everything the staff has indulged me in with all these different updates at the 11th hour, so I appreciate everybody's patience.
Hello, everyone. This is the action item for the fiscal year 2025 TIF delay. As a reminder, the fiscal year 2025 TIF project delay review is an evaluation we do on projects with funding that has been awarded by council. This evaluation is done annually to ensure funding is being utilized in a timely manner. Funding sources for review include congestion mitigation and air quality, or CMAQ, Surface Transportation Block Grant, or STBG, Transportation Alternatives, or TA, the Multimodal Transportation Mitigation Options Fund, or MFF, and the Carbon Reduction Program, or CRP. We will note that MLF projects that are part of the reconciliation efforts are not included in this current delay process. The process involves looking at the milestone deadlines that were included in the project applications. For construction projects, the deadline is the add date, and for non-construction projects, the deadline is the notice to proceed. So Jerome, could we actually start at the very bottom? Here. This is the
Very, very long.
yeah, that one. All right, so these, all the projects that would have been up for fourth delay. So at the last meeting, we got confirmation from Johnny that the 59th Avenue and O Street roundabout were really went to add in August. And then the US 37 intersection improvements, we got confirmation from Fort Collins that went to add around September 26th. So we are happy to announce there were no fourth delays this year, and we hope that continues. Go forward. So, we initially at the discussion last month, we had 4 third delay projects that has now changed to 3 because earlier this week, we learned that the 83rd Ave roadway improvements from Greeley actually went to add in July. The document they sent us told us October. But we're happy that there is one less delayed project. Yeah. And then, so there were 16 now total projects that were up for delay, but were not delayed further. This can all be seen here. We could go to the first place. All of the first delays, there are 6 first delays, all of the first delays are approved by TAC on their meeting on September. These are the third delays. Oh, it's okay. All the first delays are approved by TAC on the meeting on September 17th. Okay, go up one. This is the one project that's up for second delay, Mulberry Street traffic signal synchronization. This is one of the items that you will be voting on today. We do not require a presentation for second delay items, but we have multiple Port Collins staff here today. So if you have any questions about this project, feel free to ask. All right, go to the third delays. So we have 3 third delays. There's the Little County Road 13 alignment improvements from improvement to Fort Collins in the US 34 widening from Boise to Rocky Mountain. I will note that all these projects are SDBG funding. TAC recommended approving delays for all their projects, for all third delays and second delays after previous meeting. And we will now get to the presentations for these 3 projects. So, Jerome, which one first? Sir. Windsor, Scott, I believe you're online.
We are. Did you want us to speak to it?
Ideally, yes.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Pearson if he can come off mute. If he can't, I will speak to it.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm here. Yep. Scott Pearson, transportation engineer with the town of Windsor. The project on the screen there was delayed for FEMA floodplain risk map edits that were being made with Larimer County. And once those were resolved, then the base map for our hydraulic modeling was able to advance, and we were able to get that project continued to make progress and on track to advertise in the spring and break ground before summer is our goal next year.
Sounds good.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Scott? Dawn?
I do want to add in there that we would look really excited on that phase 2 if Larimer and Weld and Timnath would really like to partner with us so we can fix the blue line too. So I'm just putting that out there. Just think about it.
Wants the data?
Yeah, the Taft Hill Road corridor project goes from in the north, at the Horsetooth intersection to the south in Brixton. Next slide. It is a corridor widening project, essentially, that brings this, rural, cross section into an urban cross section in our road management area of Larimer County. This is a joint project with Larimer County. You can see there the existing 2-lane road sections, more of a rural cross section, and brings in some new mobility and pedestrian sidewalk elements as well. Next slide. The delays were primarily caused initially by COVID related pandemic staffing concerns. There were hiring freezes and the lack of project management staff at Fort Collins at the time. And then that coupled with the construction inflation that's primarily experienced in 2022 and 2023. At this time, real estate acquisition is primarily complete. We are proceeding, or Larimer County is proceeding with eminent domain on 7 parcels, but those we have possession of the needed right-of-way elements. We're just working on final dispensations for those parcels. A value engineering effort is complete and construction documents are all but final. We've been through the final office review with Colorado Department of Transportation. Next slide. And then The funding delay was primarily due to escalation, but in the meantime, the shortfall of approximately 2.3 million, both Larimer County and the city of Fort Collins have identified 2026 funding in order to meet that shortfall. And so it's our goal, next slide, to go to advertisement for construction in the spring or in March of 2026. And then we're expecting construction duration to be about 7 months. Happy to answer your questions.
Questions for Dana? One with Upland, Nicole.
Right. So this is the US 34 westbound portion from Boise to Rocky Mountain. This is part of a bigger series of projects that have happened in Loveland to widen US 34, starting, and I think East-West Mobility Study started in 1997, and then we've had subsequent projects. Go to the next slide. Several of those phases have been implemented. This particular phase, and you can go to the next slide. Has been delayed again due to the staffing shortages during COVID. I think we're seeing some of these third delays come about right around the same time that sort of the lingering impacts of COVID. We also, this is part of the original, I think, 2007 EA for US 34. So we had to make some updates to the EA, and that took a little bit longer. In that process, we're currently in right-of-way acquisition on this process, in this project, and it's going smoothly so far. We're very confident we can meet that August 2026 deadline, and we get calls every day. We're very excited for this part of US 34 to be live, and along with the eastbound section will be coming a year after. But that was our.
Well, any questions for Colt?
I'm just getting, Loveland also puts in, construction impact fees. You guys have transportation impact fees, so okay, great.
Yeah, and that's part of the package of funding that we have for this is the these are part of this.
Awesome, thank you.
Also, we're accounting for some of the cost escalation that we have.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, that is all we have. You are free to discuss the projects. Again, it's the 1 second delay and the delays.
And TAC had approved all of this at the.
Right.
So any questions or comments before we make the motion for this resolution?
Yeah, so the resolution is only required for the third delay, it's not for the second, correct?
It's the second and the third delays.
Pardon?
It is the second and the third delays.
Okay, so that would make 4. Three projects, so if we're gonna cover all 4, you need to modify the resolution. Is it? It's front range from
Right here.
right.
So these are the third delays. Yes.
It says, but extensions for the 3 projects.
Oh, you mean, and now therefore be,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying, the total numbers.
the total number now therefore be it resolved references 3 projects, not 4. So it just needs
Okay, yes, I see. Thank you for
Four.
mentioning that.
4 projects.
This needs to be updated anyways to change it from Johnny, so we will be sure to change that.
Sure, we can just say in the motion with the
Yeah.
inclusion of item 4. For project.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion before we entertain a motion here? All right, Bill, do you want to do the honors of?
Yeah, sure. I move we approve the resolution with the minor change to reference 4 projects.
I'll second.
A motion second, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, although hearing something. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed?
Hi.
Oh, is that was an aye for approval? That last time?
It was, I got muted and I thought I said I, but I had to make sure I got my I in. So it was for
Appreciate that.
approval.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. And so no one was opposed? All right, so that motion passes. Thank you, Jonathan.
Good.
All right. Moving on, to the Van Gogh extenuating circumstances policy, Elizabeth.
So we are Shane is gonna go ahead and do the presentation for us. Shane is our Van Gogh operations manager, and so he's gonna, update you guys on everything Van Gogh.
Thanks, Shane.
Fabulous. No, thank you guys for giving me a little bit of time here. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the program for anybody who's kind of new and doesn't or just isn't familiar with it, and then I'll just go into some of the program highlights right now. If we can move on to the next slide. So for those who don't know, van pooling is basically just a shared mode of transport. Van Gogh operates basically between 2 to 6 passengers. We do have some vans that have more than 6 due to part-time issues. But it's basically just a shared commute. People pay a flat fare. We cover maintenance, insurance, the van itself, and provide a guaranteed ride home in case, you know, they get to work and are ill and have to come home, or if there's other emergencies. It has a lot of advantages. Some are shown here, like you don't have to drive every day. So you can read, you can do work, you can sleep, you can do whatever works for you. It's just a great way of getting between point A and point B and making your commute a little bit easier. Next slide, please. So why is the NPO the home of Van Gogh? There's a long story here, but I'll just keep it to this side of it. It reduces ozone, reduces GHG, and reduces single occupancy vehicles. Plus it has the advantage of, next slide, please. It's a visual representation of the NPO and all at council. So these vans going down the road, people recognize them. People might not know, if they're not in transit savvy, what the NPO does, but they have seen a Van Gogh van most times. So sometimes it's just an impetus for conversation as well. You can start talking transit, they don't know what you're saying. You can drop Van Gogh and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen the van before. So it's just another way of you know, us having an outreach to the public that's pretty visible. Next slide, please. Those are 2 van poolers, by the way. Van Gogh stats. The last time I was before council was December of 2023, so I just used those stats as the starting point. At that point, you can see we had 20 active routes, 76 participants, an occupancy rate of 3.7. To be transparent, we need about an occupancy of 4.0 to break completely even. At that point, it was 14 newer returning participants that were still active and 1 new route added in 2023. 2025 has been a fairly interesting year. As you see, we have 22 routes, 78 participants. The occupancy rate has dropped. That's due to the number of participants matching to the number of routes. But we have 28 new or returning participants and 5 new routes added. Most of those were at the very beginning of the year. 2 of those were to a destination that Van Gogh has historically spent a lot of money to get vans to, and that would be Estes Park, without success. Ironically, the vans parked in a parking lot along Timberline Road. Got the manager of the Bureau of Reclamations in Estes Park to give me a call. We set up a meeting, and that got 2 routes to Estes Park. So sometimes you just learn the best marketing in the world is literally those vans. Next slide, please. So right now the fleet, we sit at 29 units. That's 22 route vans, 6 in reserve, and 1 RAV4 that we keep at the Canyon address for use of the NPO employees. 100% of our routes are running Toyota hybrids. I am CAFM certified, which is basically the gold standard for fleet management. The fleet is valued at well over $1 million. And there's a lot that goes into actually managing that, from maintenance to procurement to disposal and such. I didn't have that training coming in, so I went ahead and got that training and now have that certification. City of Fort Collins and Greeley are our 2 maintenance facilities. These are 2 very long-term relationships. We go back with Fort Collins, predates me obviously, as well as Greeley. They both have dedicated techs, and the relationship is strong as well. It's just IGA between both of them. If we ever have any issues, which we never have, we can go through them that way. But once again, never any issues. They're fantastic to work with. Next slide, please. So we do an annual survey of our participants. I believe Paul mentioned to the council last year at one of the meetings when we got this milestone, but our customer satisfaction last year reached 100%. I'd kept it at 99% for years. The entire time I was here, I think when I came in, it was 89. I got it up to 95, and then it sat at 99 for like 4 years. I swear there was just one person out there just trying to get it to me. But we turned that around and we got the 100%. So I can finally rest easy. We'll see what happens this year, but I have high hopes. How most people heard about the Van Gogh program was two ways. So from friends, relatives, or current van poolers, and from the vans themselves. The vans themselves being generally the number one, friends, family, relatives, or current van poolers being the number two. And the number one reason why people chose to van pool was to reduce their actual personal vehicle costs. So while we might pitch what it does for the environment, that's not exactly the selling point to the participants themselves. Next slide, please. So what's coming up? We're actually getting ready to do the annual survey again. It's handled by Way to Go for us. They've done it historically, again, predating me, but that will go out probably the next couple of weeks. And once I get those results, which will probably come around December, if not January, I'll make sure that's included in the council packet once I have those compiled. We also have the annual Van Gogh safety newsletter coming out. Something we do every year that just tries to highlight different safety aspects to the van poolers. They are our drivers, they're volunteer drivers, but they are going down the road every day. And while we have a fantastic safety record, it just doesn't hurt to keep things fresh in their mind. Different for us this year, I reached out to one of our contacts, which is Casey's Car Wash in Fort Collins, as I do videos on the newsletter, and there's quizzes after each individual short video. And I asked him if we had somebody to get 100% on all the quizzes, which there's 5 quizzes and 5 questions each. If we got 100% on all of them, would he be willing to do an interior detail? And he agreed. So that's the first time we're kind of doing that this year. I also had a short conversation with him about possibly doing discounts for van poolers in the future. So just other things coming down the pipeline. Elizabeth mentioned the app and the portal upgrade. This is big news for Van Gogh. We looked at an app years ago and it was definitely out of reach. This year, once we started looking into the NTD portal and the finance aspect of it, this became a bigger opportunity. So we kind of jumped at that. It will make it very easy for our van poolers to report their mileage. It will make it very easy for them to pay the bills. It also just moves Van Gogh into the current millennium, basically. Next slide, please. So there's where the thanks comes. And if there's any questions.
Any questions for Jake? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm wondering about how long the commutes are for the Van Gogh. Obviously, they vary, but what kind of range in terms of mostly time?
Right
Like
now,
how long are they?
like
Yeah.
time-wise or distance?
Your call.
Okay. I mean, I would say distance. Our longest at this point is probably Greeley to Lakewood. They operate, that's actually FEMA employees. They operate on a fairly early schedule, as most of our van pools do to avoid the mass amounts of traffic. But they leave Greeley at like 2:30 in the morning and come back sometime over 1:30 in the afternoon. But that is our longest. We have a bunch going to Lakewood at this point.
So and the reason I asked, I'm wondering, I know one of the big features in the San Francisco Bay Area from friends of mine that used van pooling and bus pooling to get to work, oftentimes over an hour in commute time. And one of the things that they appreciated was onboard Wi-Fi, so they could actually begin catching up on some of their work while they were obviously not riders, in transit. And so I'm wondering if something like a Starlink Mini mounted in not all of the vans, but the vans with long commute times might be an attractive marketing component. Just food for thought.
Yeah, we did at one time actually look into that.
Yeah, I do have a Starlink Mini mounted in my vehicle, which I use for Colorado 4x4 rescue and recovery. And the Wi-Fi works amazingly well, even up in the mountains for communications. So
interesting.
Where cell phone service is not available or sketchy. And it does work while you're driving. It's mobile compatible and pretty
Fantastic.
reasonable.
Is it a monthly?
Yeah, it's a monthly fee, $50 for 50 gigabytes. You can stop at any time. There's no contract. Yeah, so, and it's, I think, $1 a gig over 50. So, it might be worth exploring again for some
Yeah,
of the
definitely.
routes.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's something we looked into years ago. Was fairly cost prohibitive at that point. And then we started to move more towards van poolers using hotspots on their phones, just because most of them are traveling the corridor. So Wi-Fi problem or like connectivity problem never caused an issue. But it's really good to know that's out there because like our van going into Estes Park right now, that definitely changes that game. So that's really good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Shane? Shane, I just want to thank,
I just wanted to point out too, that council used to get a quarterly dashboard for Van Gogh, and so we were gonna start that up again to include in your packet. So I know it's been a while since Shane's done a presentation, but the dashboard, I think, was originally created for council to kind of update you guys on what's going on a regular basis, so that you didn't, in case you wanted to keep monitoring kind of how the program's doing. So we were gonna start putting that back in the packet too.
That's great.
yeah, it's so good.
And please know
Alright,
you
well,
can
thank
always
you,
reach out to
Shane.
me. Of course.
Yeah, good to know that Estes Park, glad to hear that some vans are going up to Estes Park as well, because I know that, get tired of driving that canyon if you have to drive that, it's nice to have help doing that, and it's great to, not be part of the congestion going up the canyon too, so.
Agreed.
So were we gonna talk about the extenuating circumstances policy now too?
Yeah, if that's okay with the council.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys amending the agenda. Shane and I put this, policy together yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Previously, there was a policy on the services and fare, the payment policies that was created that Shane and Suzette created during COVID. And that was to help assist our existing van poolers when they're having circumstances that are obviously beyond their control, like a public health emergency or a government shutdown or there's other extenuating circumstances outside of COVID. And so when Shane and I were talking about it, we wanted to still try to remain business friendly with our existing customers for circumstances that our policies don't currently allow that flexibility to. So we've drafted this resolution and the policy before you so that we can expand it from just not only public health emergencies, but government shutdown, if there's natural disasters or any kind of sudden changes, from emergency response that would affect people who we have current, our current van poolers who it could affect their routes. Because if they're not using it and it gets, they get decommissioned and then they eventually come back, now they've got to start all over again, getting reconnected, getting a new route established. It's just not a very, I would say, yeah, it's hard on our customers and we want to help work with our customers. And so Shane really helped me out with kind of putting this together so that we could present it to you at the 11th hour. And in hindsight, we like to think that the federal government isn't going to shut down and they're going to figure it out, but it didn't happen. And if we didn't put this on your agenda like today, because of what happened yesterday, then say we wait until next month, then that's gonna make staff have to go back and retroactively fix every account and issue the late fees and then recount. So it was gonna put a lot of work on staff. So I really do appreciate your guys' consideration with adding this tonight so that it would help streamline the routes, because we do have federal government employees who are, some of our routes that picked up, that is some of the people impacted by this. And we want to be able to not have to decommission a route just because they can't control their work circumstance right now. So the intent behind this is that it's more temporary, right? This is not considered to be an all the time solution, but we wanted to be able to have, because there's a fiscal component tied to it. we needed to bring it to you guys to get your approval and your consideration and, essentially have a motion if you support this policy that we could start implementing as part of our program. I don't know, Shane, if you wanted to add anything.
The only thing I would add is, so when we originally did this back at COVID, it was kind of a last minute thing that we had to put together. I come from a business background, so the most important thing to me, A, is customer service, and B, is keeping customers. So if we have instances like COVID or like a shutdown where people might not be able to ride, I want to be able to serve them to the level that they've become accustomed to, as well as keep them in the system. Because as long as they're in the system, it's really easy for me to activate them and bring them back. And it's also, I'm just a phone call away from them to be able to do so instead of jumping through a bunch of hoops. So that's how this originally started. When I reached out to Elizabeth about needing to do this again, she had the genius idea of, we should actually have a long-term policy to come back and do this instead of having to jump last minute again, like we did this time, which was fantastic. So what brings us here today?
Thank you. Any questions or comments before we make a motion?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And you're right, there are different extenuating circumstances that we all didn't think we were gonna be living through another shutdown and hopefully not another, health emergency, but just in case, I think this is really smart. So, would someone like to make the motion for this?
I move we approve this resolution.
There a second?
Second.
It's motion is second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. So we'll move on to our discussion items, number 17, and that's the NPO Executive Director Policies. Elizabeth.
All right, thank you. I wanted to bring to your attention, I did mention this to the Finance Committee and to the Executive Committee. I was going through our policies on page 39 to 47, policy 5.6. Essentially, the council back in June of 2024 updated the Executive Director policies to put a $100,000 threshold on the signing of contracts. And the reason this came to my attention, not because I did read the Executive Director policies, but our CPG contracts. So you may recall at the last council meeting, I had asked you guys to amend the 2026 budget to align with our CPG contract of $1.3 million. We have the actual amount. In light of that, then the council approved the 2026 budget, and you knew the exact dollar amount that was going to go into our CPG contract. In anticipation, we have to execute that contract by ideally before October 1st. And so I wasn't going to be meeting with the council again. I did reach out to the chair and asked if I could execute that contract because they sent it to me in my name as the executive director. So I would have had to send it back, had it put in the chair's name. I don't know how long it would have taken CDOT to do that. And I said, I'm just memorializing what you guys already approved in the budget for 2026. So I wanted to have the discussion if you guys would be willing to maybe revisit this, because most of the contracts that I am signing for $1 million or what have you, you've already approved through the budget process. I'm not really signing anything that doesn't come to your attention essentially over that dollar amount. So this is more of a timing issue for us in the organization and making sure that we're executing the contracts in a timely manner. And I guess I wanted to have the discussion if you guys feel comfortable with either maybe going back to how the policy was originally written or changing the amount or something that I can feel we're still making things move in a timely manner depending on when you meet.
So, my comment in the Finance Committee meeting was if it was already approved by entire, by a vote of the entire body, that she should be able to, the executive director should be able to execute any contract related to that prior approval. I would think you'd only need something if something came up that wasn't approved, that was time sensitive, then you need to go back. So I don't know what the previous policy stated exactly, but my feeling is if the council has approved a budget item, that the executive director should be able to execute an approved budget item. And there shouldn't be a dollar limit because we've already approved it.
I agree.
I agree too, makes sense.
So I didn't recommend any changes for this discussion just because I didn't want to waste, if you guys were like, no, we're keeping policy, we're not. But I can propose changes for the next meeting for you guys' consideration. And then if it's something that you're good with, we could change it in December. So there's no rush on this. I just came to my attention because I've essentially already violated the policy in theory.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be transparent about it. And so,
With the executive director.
with the chair's approval,
With the
yeah,
peers.
with the chair's
I'm sorry,
approval.
with the peers.
Yeah, I have it in writing, so I'm feeling okay about it, but it just made me realize that I don't want to be in that situation in the future. And so if we can figure out a way or language that you guys feel comfortable with, that can still help me, do the business in the direction of the council, I would like to revisit it and propose some language change.
Anyone online have any thoughts? Yeah, I'll just say at the finance committee. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would say
Sorry.
it sounds like a very prudent idea. So
Yeah, and at the finance committee, we discussed this and there was consensus that was the route to go. We certainly don't want you to feel like you're breaking any rules when you're doing this. And it sounds like you don't feel like there's any urgency. There's nothing coming up that would, that we need to, do we need to get this on the November agenda, or do you feel like we can?
I think if you guys are okay with saying I can make some changes, I'll make them, we'll bring it back to the November meeting, and then you guys, if you're good with it, then we can push it to December. I do have some more contracts that are coming through that are gonna exceed the $100,000 threshold that you already approved for the 2026 budget for our STBG contract. If anything, I guess if you guys are okay, and they're not the dollar amount that the CPG wanted, was at 1.3 million, but if you're okay with me moving forward with those contracts as well in the interim of working through this, I would appreciate that support.
Yeah, it seems like the language would be pretty simple.
Yeah,
If
it's been approved by.
if it's been approved, then you should be able to execute it and just, I think if it states that, that's pretty simple and makes sense.
And if the contracts don't match the dollar amount, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to come back to you with a new resolution
Right.
for a new budget,
Right.
right? So I feel like I'm coming back to you guys either way so that you would know
Sure.
if the contracts are matching or not.
All right. So you have your direction that you need to bring that language forward. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate the consideration.
Yeah. I don't know why it wouldn't have been that way, but it makes sense. If we've approved it, that's your role then.
Like the unnecessary stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
and we don't want you to have to worry about breaking rules so early in your tenure, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll look forward to seeing that language next month. We'll vote on that in December. Our next discussion item is number 18, and that's the greenhouse gas transportation report. And Becky Carrasco.
I think I'll just. As I mentioned at the council meeting last month, with the RTP amendment, we have had two projects that have required us to do both a conformity determination as well as a new GHG transportation report and analysis. So we passed conformity, no issues there, and that will come to you next month. One thing that we have been struggling a little bit with, and that's more with our model, not so much with GHG, is a GHG transportation report. And fortunately, I have the person doing most of the work sitting next to me. So if you have questions, hopefully he can answer them, or Michaela back there as well. So if you want to go to the next slide. So the reason why we're doing this, since there are several new members on the council since the first and second time that we did this, in 2021, the Transportation Commission adopted the Greenhouse Gas Planning Standard, which required MPOs and CDOT to demonstrate reductions of GHG emissions compared to baseline plans. And the baseline plan was whatever plan you had in place and had adopted when this rule went into effect. So for us, that was our 2019 RTP that we adopted, which was fantastic for us because we were able to take, able to take 3 years worth of improvements that had happened both with the MPO's work, the state, as well as our locals, and to be able to factor that into our GHG reductions, which was better than, say, if Dr. Cog had just adopted their RTP. And so for them, the impacts of those plan projects just wasn't able to be realized in less than a year. And so it applies also to our TIP. So whenever we do a new TIP, if there's a new project in there that requires conformity, which would be pretty rare for a project to be in a TIP that is not in an RTP, it would require us to do another GHG report. And they're reviewed not only by CDOT staff, but APCD staff, and then approved by the TC. So for us, the strategies that we have used to achieve compliance with the greenhouse gas standard are these 4 overall groups. So active transportation, so the expansion of our regional active transportation corridors, as well as the increase of e-bikes and scooters within the region. Transit, so we have expanded service on Colt. Bustang, we're able to take credit for Bustang service within our MPO boundary. And regional transit corridors. So that includes the US 34 transit study that's underway right now. It will be in service in the outer years that we have to look at, just not for the current year, but we are able to take credit for that, as well as the 5 mobility hubs and transit centers within the region. Operations wise, we look at arterial signal timing improvements. And then for transportation demand management, we included the increase in work from home since 2019. So even though the heart of the COVID pandemic and all of that, everyone being at home is done, the residual effects of people being able to have a hybrid work schedule, we can factor that in as an improvement. And then the development of TDM and safe routes to school programs within our region by 2030 and then through out year, which is 2050. So this table here shows the 5 years that we have to do reductions in. So 25, 30, 40, and 50 are the ones that we have to do. 29 is there because that is the out year of our TIP. And so that's what the new document will be. So that's the year that we have to put in there. And that is interpolated. So it's 25. And that is because of our model. We don't have every single year. So we have to interpolate those data points. So the baseline plan, which is our 2045 RTP from 2019, those are the reductions in million metric tons that we have to achieve. So the second line here shows what this amendment will achieve, what we get from those. The reduction you see is in the bold there. So we've reduced by those points. And then what's required for us to reduce is that almost bottom line there. So 0.04, 0.06, 0.12, 0.11, and 0.07. And we passed for all of the years, which is fantastic news and much to Jerome's credit. And I think he's going to want to go home and sleep or take vacation for a week after dealing with the model. But we passed. So this is fantastic news. So we are very happy to finally be in compliance. And so we are able to go forward with this without having to do mitigation action for our map, which would be additional measures that we would have to do on top of what we're already doing to achieve compliance. Nope, just that. Okay. So the greenhouse gas transportation report will be sent to CDOT staff as well as to APCD staff on Monday. for their required 30-day review for CDOT staff and 45-day review for ABCD staff. It will also go out for public comment on Monday for 30-day public comment, and then it will come back to you all in December because it first needs to be approved by the TC at their November meeting. So I will be presenting at the November workshop, and then it will be approved hopefully the next day at the TC meeting. That is not the ideal way, but because there's no meeting happening this month, so or there's I think you guys are traveling, so will not be at that meeting. But it will come back to the council for adoption at the December 4th meeting, along with the RTP amendment, the TIP, and the conforming determination. But I'm happy to take any questions. Or have Jerome take any questions.
This model that you used at HB 230 has increased additional funding going to local transit agencies to expand service. Was that taken into consideration in this model, or how will you account for that in future years as these local transit agencies expand?
So I don't believe they have the plans developed yet that we would know what those expansions are. We do know about bus day. And they're wanting to double the service within the next 10 years. So we took that into account. For our local transit agencies, the only thing that we increased, if we didn't already have it in our RTP from 2023, we just included the US 34 transit service. But we will start the data collection process for our next RTP, and then we.
Other questions or comments?
Good news.
I have a question. What about places that are not expanding their transit service or have to cut back on their transit service? You guys are, but I mean, there are a lot of budget woes right now. So is that something that comes to you then, that you're in contact with those transit agencies and we can?
Yeah, if it's a short-term decrease in service, it's not going to impact our model or our plan as much as something that somebody were to completely cut a route forever, or like bus tank stops operating completely, like that would be an impact, and we would have to take that into consideration.
So when passenger rail comes on board, will we be able to?
So RTD and light rail is something that DRCOG can take into consideration. I don't know how we would represent that because front range passenger rail isn't in our model right now, just because it doesn't exist yet. So that would be something we would need to have built into our model, but we could take, could take credit for that, but we just don't have it. Yeah, it's just not in there yet.
Not there yet, so.
Yeah, but that's a good point, right, to keep in mind for future years.
Yeah.
And if there is funding for, if passenger rail is gonna be doing modeling for that they're sharing that data with us.
Yeah, and I know they will. They're gonna share that data out there.
Yeah, once it's shareable, yeah.
When it's shareable, and perfect timing, because it'll start at 29, which is just about the time you need to.
They're perfect. Our next RTP will be 27. So.
With the presentation, do you have to give more data than you kind of gave them?
Yes, you have to go into, all of the strategies that we used. I have to go into, there's a lot of tables and, the model, the base year model versus the current model and the out years. So it's quite a data. So we didn't want to.
Okay, yeah.
I can bring that in December if you'd like, but.
Well, and you guys saw that when Becky did the presentations back when we did first do
The first one.
Yeah, it's those same. those
So we
same
did that in 22 and in 23, so yeah, it's the same. Just the different out years.
Any other questions? All right. Good luck in the presentations and.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, council reports. We'll start with the Transportation Commission.
Oh, well, thank you. Probably a lot of you were on last night's call for the I-25 coalition. So I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive from last night. Transportation Commission, the big issue was last month, the adoption of the 2050 plan. And with that adoption of that 2050 plan, it now gives the outlines and the guardrails for how the 10-year plans will fit within that 2050 plan. So now it's full steam ahead now with the 10-year plans and getting ready to adopt the 10-year plan. And we will be seeing, Transportation Commission will not be seeing that until November. Transportation Commission and CTIO Board will be going up to Glenwood on we do an annual tour of some big project. Last year it was Floyd Hill project. This year it's the Mountain Rail. This Mountain Rail is expected to go online by 2026, at least part way. And with phase 2 coming from Craig to Oak Creek the following year. So we'll be taking a tour of that mountain rail, taking a train ride on that mountain rail corridor. And then some additional riding Mustang back and taking a look at some additional projects along the way on I-70 coming out. So the real conversations on the 10-year plans and the interesting conversations will all occur November and December, because the first big opportunity for us to take a look at all the projects as a Transportation Commission will be at the November meeting. And then the December meeting will have some follow-up after input from the Transportation Commission in November. And that's really the big news from PC. But I wanted to give you an update on what the CTIO board is doing. We held our retreat last Tuesday, and we have really been going full steam ahead since 184 was passed on all the rail stuff that has fallen into our lap. But it wasn't just the rail that was added to our role. Transit as a whole was added to our role. So the big thing during our retreat was looking at all the transit projects that CTIO may or may not be involved in. The two biggest ones, of course, for the passenger rail, North Front Range Passenger Rail and Mountain Rail. Those are the two biggies. The negotiations are going really well with Mountain Rail. That one, I think, is pretty well on track. We're trying to develop the final budget plan for that. The one kink in this whole thing with 184 is that the anticipated revenues from 184 are not as high as they are because tourism is down in the state in this year. So it's not generating quite the revenue that it was expected to. So that could throw a kink into some of the things that we're looking at. The other three transit projects that we looked at was report on Mustang and the impact of some of the other two the impact that the other two projects would have on the viability and of Mustang. And the big one is the North I-25 projects, segments 2, 3, 4, and how those might be needed in order for Mustang to be successful. So that was a big one. And then the other one, which is further out, is the I-270 corridor. So those were the 5 transit, and we're looking at I-25 and I-270 as transit projects, because that's the way we're going to get reliable transit service from Fort Collins all the way down to Denver, and along that and transit between the I-70 and I-25 corridors. So we're looking at them as transit projects. Hint, hint. And the big issue with all of these transit projects is they need to be we're gonna have to work with TC and CDOT, getting them into the 10-year plan. That's the biggie. Answer any questions you may have.
Is there a process to get on your agenda for TC?
What?
Is there a process to get on your agenda? For a
Like,
municipality,
public comment.
for me, yeah, well, public comment, but
Yeah,
there's.
yeah. Oh, of course. We
Okay.
have public comment right at the very beginning of every meeting.
But I have 3 municipalities that all want to speak on rail. Is there a process to get on the agenda?
You just have to, yes, send an email to Herman Stockinger at
Okay.
CDOT
Deputy Director.
and that you want to be part of public comment.
Thank you.
I can send you the link to.
Oh, this is
the
public comment. This is not an agenda line. All right,
No.
so you guys have no process for outsiders to get on the agenda.
Not on, no.
Okay.
If you wanted to speak to something, if that's the time is to do it during public comment.
You're done, okay.
Yeah.
I tell the other mayors, that's 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, like Commissioner Mauricio and Adams County, they've been almost
Every-
every transportation commission for the last 3 months. They've been under public comment speaking for 3 minutes about like I-270.
And we've had the mayor of Erie, we've had, the mayor of Meade, so absolutely, yeah, and quite frankly, I always make sure that I thank our local elected officials to.
Well, I appreciate that.
speak.
As a former mayor, I know you know, so thank you.
You bet. So, yes. You bet. The October meeting, there probably won't be an opportunity because we'll be on the road. But November.
In the train, right? So basically,
Pardon me?
in the train.
In the train, we'll be in the train.
The chairman.
Oh, yes. I am now the chair of the CTIO.
All right.
Yeah, because you need more work, Cecil.
I didn't.
So, Cecil was an example of, how not to retire.
Better working at Home Depot under paint like everyone else.
Well, we appreciate your service. I'm just teasing you. Any other questions for Cecil about this? Cecil, with the 184, when you're talking the 184 revenue down because of tourism, is 184 the rental car?
Yeah.
fee? Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, good to know. And then, yeah, I've been stuck on 270 more than once, so I echo my friend, Steve Odorizio's comments on fixing I-270.
Yeah, and just, you know, I know that you all probably already know, but CTE for some of those, you know, they're looking at expansion and they're looking to be very lenient. So about some of how they're going to be able to give some of that discretionary money out to these, because they want the money out.
The transit dollars?
Yeah.
Well, that's good because I mean, I will say there's a lot of us that are facing in that. Now, we don't run transit in the county, but I mean, a lot of municipalities are facing very flat sales tax dollars.
Yeah.
And, you know, things that they have to pick up that the federal government no longer picks up, or grants that aren't coming in. And so I think the sooner the better that we can get some of those transit dollars out to our communities to make sure that they don't have to cut routes. And then maybe things, you know, start to look up a little bit.
I really think your transit folks, at least the ones that I know, have been really on top of a lot of this already. But just to give you a heads up, that I know that Craig Seacrest has told me personally that they're willing to try to bend over backwards to get these dollars out the door
That's great.
to transit agencies.
Oh, please go ahead.
Is it 260, the one for oil and gas production?
230, that's the 230.
This is the 230 money.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
All right, anything else for Cecil, the hardest working retiree amongst us? All right, well, thank you, Cecil.
You bet.
We'll move on to the staff report is, I think, written on page 43, and Mayor Pro Tem Hyde, is there anything you wanted to add to that written report?
She left
Oh, she left.
put a note in to say there was no staff meeting, so it didn't have a report.
Oh, that's right, there was no staff meeting. I did know that. Mayor Klein, US 34 Coalition.
Yes, we met yesterday and it was a rousing meeting, and sorry if you were not able to be there. We did find out that everyone's favorite fall activity is football. and driving peak to peak and watching the leaves turn. So, but that and driving, yes. So that brings us back to transportation. We did have two presentations. One of them was a update on the railroad elimination project. We'd had it. We also looked at that in July, but there had been some more updates on it. They were doing so many analysis and alternative analysis that they had a 2A and a 2B screening. Just looking at some more of the traffic and roadway modeling and trying to validate all of the alternatives. So on that project, they still have numerous alternatives that they're looking at. They're up to 11 different alternatives. But obviously this project, we kind of asked about, hey, what about money? And we're like, no, we're just discussing what we maybe can do. So of course, just like any study, it will continue to study and model, and then we will have some results and then decide if we'd be able to fund any of those results coming forward. We also had another presentation on the US 34 corridor. And on that one, they're doing the corridor preservation study. Really, the main thing of that study is just trying to validate along the way if there's certain zoning or certain characteristics that should maybe be in the whole corridor plan that would be uniform throughout it. They have a lot of mini TAC meetings now that are being scheduled over the next couple of months in various areas to kind of discuss the vision, assumptions, MOEs, alternatives, different modeling, all sorts of fun stuff. So local agencies involved are Loveland, Johnstown, Greeley, Windsor, Larimer County, Weld, and of course, North Front Range MPO. Jerome's on there. So otherwise, just wrapped it up, talked about some more TAC reports, got a report from the Go No Code 34 TMO, and getting ready in January that we will elect a new chair. So that is my report for the US 34 coalition.
Mayor Planner, you sure you don't want to stay a second year?
We'll see. I threatened if you don't show up that you'll be nominated in perpetuity, without being there. So.
Any questions for Mayor Klein about Port Corridor? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks.
We will move on to I-25 Coalition, Commissioner James.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I will keep my report very, very brief because most of you were there last evening. I-25 moving full speed ahead, at least through segment 5. We heard from CDOT about the good work that they're doing there. Segment 1 even has some movement down there, or not segment 1, the District 1 down there. Why can't I think of CDOT District 1? Region 1, thank you. CDOT Region 1 has some projects going there at I-25 in Colorado 7 as they're starting to build kind of an interim mobility hub. So there's a good forward progress on I-25. But the bottom line of the I-25 coalition is just to continue to keep the advocacy up. Commissioner Gutierrez mentioned that the Transportation Commission is on the road in October, but in November, if you were an I-25 advocate, which I consider myself to be, it's always a good opportunity to speak up before the Transportation Commission and keep the gas on that particular stretch of roadway. Madam Chair, that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Any questions? Well, it sounds like, Cecil, you had talked about segment 2, 3, and 4, I mean, to make Mustang successful, so hopefully there'll be some movement there. Okay, he's got his fingers crossed, Commissioner James, so.
The one thing on the I-25 coalition that CDOT told us last night, which I think is great news, that the speed cameras will be going up on segment 5 and should be up and running soon in December. Yeah, and quite frankly, it's a way to make behavior change. And we have seen it at CTIO with a STEP program that it has made significant behavior change on the weaving in and out of the lanes, and a 91% reduction in the time we had that STEP program. So it's a good way to
Yeah, the other
change
thing,
behavior.
the other thing that was mentioned about those cameras, so if you've seen them on 119, you can see them coming, right? And there are little signs that say speed cameras ahead. They're also putting, and I'm not sure exactly how it works, but they're putting pucks in the ground too. So if you slow down for the speed cameras and then speed up in between them, if you exceed your average speed, the pucks will catch you and then still get a ticket. Which I thought was pretty clever, but then I started thinking, how do they know it's the same car over that whole stretch, over the puck? Don't try to beat the cameras.
And it's bittersweet because CDOT signed their final construction passage on second time. So that's a huge milestone.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's awesome.
Well, we'll pretty soon we'll start collecting that revenue on the other segments. 6,
Yep.
7, 8.
Yes.
6, 7, and 8 starting in December.
We'll see if we can maybe coordinate a presentation with CTIO coming before they go into effect and update the council on what that's gonna look like.
We'll try to get Piper Darling back up here.
Sounds great. All right. Great. So our next item is 24, Front Range Passenger Rail District, Councilmember Canonica.
Thank you. So at our meeting, we talked about the annual retreat, and we are postponing the retreat. It was supposed to be October 16th and 17th. Chrissy Bright, who has been our interim director for about the past year, has announced she's stepping down in early November. So with the change in leadership there, we decided to postpone to November or December. And we're in the middle of the hiring process to bring on board that was already in place, to bring on a new general manager. And so we will be having a special meeting October 10th in order to make a council decision on the finalists so that we can get someone on board immediately so they can overlap as much as possible, creating the new person to make sure we have continuity with leadership there. And as we have 3 staff members, that it would be good to have someone on to fill that role.
Yeah, do that. Chrissy was great.
Yeah, Chrissy is great. And that was that. And then the other thing is board tenures are coming up. We kind of have that overlapping structure there with board tenures. And so my tenure just ends in December. I took over for Johnny, and that can be renewed. I think Christy or Ashika's reaching out to the MPO about getting that on the agenda before January to continue.
Yeah, Becky, I think it went to you and Becky.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, Becky.
And that's really all we recovered for the most part.
Is John's term coming in too? Or
No.
I thought it was 26, but I don't know, maybe 20.
Okay.
No, they're 2-year terms, right?
So I think it's through 25, so it would then start with 26 for me, so he must be through 27 then, I imagine. Yeah.
The update there, Christy came down and I thought it might be better if I don't attend, if I could get a better response from MPO. So I asked the chair, and there is no way to get on their agenda, but he was very dismissive in his email, even that there was a secondary stop program. So that was kind of shocking to me. So I talked to our town administrator and thought maybe it's best if I didn't attend a meeting with the passenger rail and our town administrator. And yeah, he confirms there's not a plan anymore. So that really concerned me that we voted on something and now it doesn't exist. So maybe there was a new vote that eliminated that. But I'd love to get on that agenda, just kind of get some clarity there, but we might have to use public comment too. But yeah, we had a whole program with a secondary ridership shed that had birthed in it. And the idea was if you want to self-fund after the larger communities, you have that opportunity if you petition. So I asked the chair, how do you petition? And it was pretty dismissive that there was even a problem. So yeah, that was a great privilege. Former municipalities and whatnot, I hope you see the frustration here, and I hope you don't take this person. Just just keeps getting worse, so. That was it. Thank you.
Anything else for Tricia? All right, and our last item is also Councilmember Canonico, and that is the host member report.
Yeah, well, thank you all, the few and the brave that made the trip over to Fort Collins tonight. I appreciate you being here. And thanks everyone online. So I wanted to tell you about a bit about what's going on in Fort Collins. It was a big project here for us. So number one, we have the LaPorte Avenue multimodal improvements. Construction was completed on this project this summer. This work was between Fishback Avenue and Sunset Streets, and it replaced two old aging bridges and two side paths for pedestrian and cyclists. And this corridor is really going to help students that are getting to Poudre Community Academy and Poudre High School. So really great project. It includes $5 million in grant funding, and so that was CAP money, MMOF, RMF, and HSIP. And then our next really great project is the College and Trilby intersection improvements, and that's been a really dangerous intersection. So it's great to see this one moving forward. It's a big project. It's going to be a long project, and it's reconstructing that intersection in South Fort Collins, and it will improve safety for all of users, and will also accommodate future traffic levels. Phase 1 construction was completed earlier this year, and phase 2 is underway and is planned to be completed next summer. And grant funding helped cover that $21.7 million price tag with $13.6 million in grant funds. That was HSIP, CMAQ, FASTER, the Highway Improvement Project, and STBG program funds. So thank you everyone on that. And then one that I'm really excited about is the Siphon and Union Pacific overpass. If you get a chance to go look at what the bridge is going to look like over the railroad, it's really beautiful the way the construction's been done. So we're waiting for the first week of the outage with Excel so that we can move that bridge in place, and that should be completed in November, and this is about halfway between Harmony and Trilby, and it will allow use of the power trail for a lot of people in Southeast Fort Collins, my district.
Why do you get I thought you have your own utility, but why is Excel run? Is that just them running through to the power plant?
It's PRPA.
Oh, sorry, I lied.
So, yes.
Okay, that's the transmission to the other.
And this project had $1.25 million in grant funds, the carbon reduction program, and MMOF dollars.
Oh, carbon reduction program, that's Commissioner James's favorite one.
And then continuing along with that.
It does, he always comments that it spells, what it spells out is crap.
We'll be bringing a whole opportunity for another round back to you guys, so they'll have plenty of opportunity to call it.
There you go.
And then continuing along the power trail, we have the underpass at Harmony Road. This will be another amazing project, and that'll get started later this fall. And it will connect the regionally significant power trail across Harmony Road, which is a 6-lane arterial roadway. We've had a couple fatalities there and some serious crashes have occurred, so it's really necessary. And this is a $11.6 million project and includes $6.7 million in grant funding. So TAP, CMAQ, and I'm just excited to see this one take off. And then we have the West Elizabeth Enhanced Travel Corridor, which is Foothills Transit Center and Overland Trail Roundabout. The design for the transit center and the roundabout should be completed next spring, and the corridor design should be completed later in 2026. Grant funding for this came from MMOF and rates. And then, yeah, it just keeps going. It's a big year. The College Avenue signals, and these projects will replace or install new traffic signals at intersections along 287, at Pitkin and Columbia. Those two will be replaced and a new signal will be built at Triangle Drive. And these locations will also have new sidewalks and access ramps. And this had 3.6 in grant contributions from STBG and Vaster. And finally, another one in Southeast Fort Collins. It was a good year for Southeast Fort Collins with Zach Elementary School and its Safe Routes to School project. So it's a new pedestrian crossing signal and a new traffic signal at Juniper and Thickfoil. And these all have new sidewalk access ramps and a pedestrian refugee island included. That began earlier this fall and it'll be wrapped up in just a few weeks here. And this was made possible with Safe Routes to School. So thanks, MPO.
Yeah. Any questions for Councilmember Canonica? That's a great list. Yeah. Excited to show.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have to drive around and find all those new things out.
No pressure next month.
It's early. All right, so we are at the end of our agenda. Our next month, we're always accepting agenda topic suggestions for next month, so please get those into Elizabeth if you have those. And our next meeting will be November 6th, 2025, post-election. And it'll be hosted by the City of Loveland. So we'll see y'all there. And with that, it is 7:47 and we're adjourned early.
Yeah. Maybe you should run the meeting.
Maybe someday I will.